All right, just want to make a quick little book review. This one should be quick today. This one is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. It's a quite old edition I have here. Scribner's, I don't know if they're still publishing, but I do believe Scribner's was the original publisher of Ernest Hemingway, along with F. Scott Fitzgerald. That's all I know. Probably many other writers as well. But I don't see a lot of modern books being published by Scribner's, published Charles Scribner's and Son. Look at that, $3.95. Yeah, I wonder how old this edition is. I stole this from my mother, so who knows. Anyway, this was my second time reading this novel, and I've read quite a bit by Hemingway. I've read, let's see, drawing a blank here, many of his short stories, and The Old Man and the Sea I've read, as well as two other novels that are escaping me right now. One was on the Spanish Civil War, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and then also one was, the name's escaping me. He's in Italy, and he's in the war as well. This was probably my first reread of Hemingway. I think I read The Snows of Mount Kilimanjaro like 3 or 4 times before I completed it for some reason, so I don't count that as a reread. But I read this only about a year or two ago, and I enjoyed it, but I felt that it was going to be much better on a reread, which I think many novels, many great works of literature are. Though I think I was a little disappointed, to be quite frank. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, but I feel like I might have been missing something. I'll say that I might give spoilers, so I'd probably recommend anyone watching this video that hasn't read this novel, that wants to read this novel, maybe turn this video off until you read it. It's quite a short novel, 247 pages. I think I killed it about 2 years ago. I think I read it in 3 or 4 days. This time it took me at least twice that amount of time. It was a little bit of a slog in some parts, especially in the beginning. There's a chapter where they go fishing in, where was it? I can't even remember now. Some place in Spain, in the Basque region of Spain, close to Pamplona, which is where much of the action takes place in this novel. So it's basically a group of friends, and I don't even know if I would call them friends. They're literati. Most of them are writers. They're just, carefree people living in 1920s Paris. None of them are French. None of them are from Paris. Most of them are from America or England. And they just go to cafes and they drink and have kind of dull conversations, very superficial in a way. I found many of the characters to be quite superficial, although I think it was the point of Hemingway to portray them in that way. Or maybe not superficial, but maybe something that I'll get to, and it's just nihilistic about the way things are. I think it was only revealed in one of the last pages that the year is 1924. So the Great War, World War I, had just ended 6 years prior. So you can imagine the state of their minds. Some of them probably went through the war, or at the very least were greatly affected by it. So I don't know if it's an excuse to just drink and live these meaningless lives, but maybe that's where some of them are coming from. Some of the characters are coming from. So, like I said, they kind of start in Paris, and let's see, I think it's 5 characters, the main 5 characters of the novel, which would be Robert Cohn, Jake Barnes, who is the narrator, who I would associate most closely with Hemingway, Bill, Mike, and Brett, which is a woman. Lady Ashley Brett, or Brett Ashley, Lady Brett Ashley, I believe is her name. They go to Pamplona to see the bull fight. I think it's La Corrida de Toros, del Toros, the running of the bulls, famous fiesta, which I think still goes on to this day. So they go there, and not too much happens, to be honest. I'm going to spoil it right now. They just go to cafes, drink all the time. They watch the bulls fight. And Lady Ashley she gets around a little bit. It's definitely hinted at that she, or probably more than hinted at, that she had a thing with Jake Barnes, probably the main character of the novel. Before they all go to Pamplona, she spends a week with Robert Cohn, who's a Jew, very dissatisfied with his life, with his wife particularly, and he's starting to make it as a writer, and he kind of wants to break free from his wife and just be free, and he feels that he's missing out on something. He has these ambitious and lofty dreams of discovering. He wants to live fully before he dies, really. He wants to go to South America and really see the world. He's deeply dissatisfied. He's not happy to just drink in cafes, which many of these characters are. So Lady Ashley, she goes there. I believe she's married at this time to a husband who's not even in the novel. He's not even brought in, introduced. She's planning on divorcing and remarrying Mike. Mike is a drunk. He's kind of an asshole. He's a very unredeeming character for the most part. He just gets absolutely shattered. It's pretty sad in the end. You realize that he's bankrupt. He's awful with money. I just don't know what Lady Ashley sees in him, other than the fact that he's content to let her do her thing. So while they're in Pamplona, Robert Cohn is following around Lady Ashley. He can't get her out of her head. I think he's fallen in love with her, but she just wanted that weekend with him. She's with Mike now, although Mike's being an asshole, drunk. She kind of has this platonic love for Jake. I think Jake got wounded in the war and is now impotent. That's strongly hinted at. Correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, please. Anybody who's read this novel, I'd really like their interpretation, because I feel like I'm missing out greatly on this. It's supposed to be a masterpiece, I think. It's one of the most well-known writers ever, one of his most well-known novels. So many people must be getting much from this novel. I did not get that much from it. I don't even know if I'll read it again, even though it's such a short read. So Robert Cohn's following him around, following Lady Ashley around. Mike's telling him off. They argue drunkenly many times. Lady Ashley eventually has a fling with the bullfighter. He's a 19-year-old man. These main characters are all in their 30s, mid-30s. She runs away with him, or before she runs away with him, Robert Cohn beats him up, and then Robert Cohn disappears, and then, Lady Ashley runs away with the bullfighter. They go to Madrid. A week later or so, she kind of feels bad for him and sends him off, and her and Jake Barnes reconnect. And they just go drinking at a cafe, and that's really what a lot of this novel is just drinking in cafes and bars and walking around and having light conversation. And there are parts of it that are interesting and nice to read. It goes by fairly quickly in some parts. I mean, if anybody's familiar with Hemingway, his prose is notoriously laconic. He just has these basic sentences. It's not very flowery at all. And he repetitive in some sense too, although he makes it work. I mean, he does. He is a great writer, that I will not deny. But it's just lacking for me, this novel. There's just not that much there. I think that what he's trying to portray is just the nihilism of post-war Europe, or whatever that period is called in between World War I and World War II. I think there is actually a definitive name for it that is escaping me at the moment. Intra-war period, probably not. Anyway, but it just seems to be these characters. It seems like they are looked on negatively by the people that work for these restaurants that they go to or the hotels that they stay at. They seem to be getting bad looks or getting judged. Maybe it's not that they're jaded from the war. Maybe it's something to do with their lifestyle where they're just drinking and living for nothing. So it's not really a uplifting novel at all. It just kind of ends where it starts. There's just not much going on. There's not really a proper arc, I would say. I didn't totally hate it. It is a nice read. I liked it enough to read it again twice, but again, I just don't know if I'll be going back to it again. Maybe if I reread other works by Hemingway and I really love those, I'll think that I did miss something big here. Or maybe if somebody enlightens me in the comments and tells me how great this novel is and that I'm totally missing something about it, I'd appreciate that. So anyway, that's all for today.